Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Before we get started, click that subscribe button, turn kitchen, give me a huge thumbs up. Today, we are going to be watching the scariest and creepiest animations. Let's watch. I'm scared.
I have always been a huge fan of horror movies. This story is out of that time when the movie Paranormal Activities came to theaters.
Sorry guys, I'm just turning it down.
I went to watch the movie with two of my friends, James and Andy.
Okay.
Needless to say, we were thrilled after watching this movie. The concept of moving into a house and witnessing supernatural occurrences gave us an adrenaline rush. One evening, Andy and I went to James's house for a sleepover. We were chilling in James's room. James started to talk about some articles he read online that has claimed haunted houses do exist. I was sitting near his bedroom window and smoking when Andy said, "Chris, give me a drag." I passed the cigarette to him and said, "I have also read such articles. I wish we could visit a haunted house." Andy exhaled smoke out of the window and replied, "Who says you can't?" and started smiling with mysterious eyes. James said in a surprise,
I don't trust Mr. Blue Hair. I forgot his name, so that's why I'm calling Mr. Blue Hair. I thought he had gray before in the first clip. I swear he had gray hair. Whatever, let's keep on watching.
voice, "What do you mean?" Andy turned to us and said, "There is a house residing near Crystal Lake. It's a half an hour drive from our town. People say that house is haunted." James scratches his head and said, "Oh, you mean the Millard house?" I was clueless about this place completely, so I interrupted their conversation and said, "What house? Who's Millard?" James immediately got up from his bed and switched on his laptop. He surfed a few minutes and then said, "Yes, I was right. I read about this place. This house has a very horrifying history. Years ago, a man named William Millard lived there. He had a beautiful daughter, but that man was very strict and hardly let his daughter go out of the house. One day, he found out that the daughter was having an affair with their mailman. Mr. Millard got so angry that he lost his senses and pushed his daughter down the stairs. The daughter broke her back and could never walk like a human. Some say she crawled around the entire house at night like a dog. A week after this incident, passerbys called the cops complaining about a rancid smell coming from the house. As the cops entered the house, they discovered Mr. Millard's dead body near the stairs. He fell from the stairs and broke his neck. They found the daughter dead on her bed. I smirked and said, "What is so horrifying about that? The daughter probably took revenge on her father and later killed herself too?" James looked at me with wide eyes and said, "As per the forensic report, the daughter died on 20th March, 1 p.m. in the afternoon on her bed. And Mr. Millard's time of death? Pronounced 20th March, 1 a.m. at night. There was no sign of forced entry into the house. So yeah, people say the daughter's angry spirit killed her father." Andy said,
Or, here's a thought, the mailman killed his father. Her father, not his father. I think it's the mailman. Mailman or the spirit. I don't know. But that mailman is acting very sus.
"Want to check out the place? What say?"
No, don't.
James and I agreed to him, and we decided to go to Crystal Lake that weekend. I took my brother's car, and we left one Saturday evening. We wanted to feel the chills, so we chose to go after dark. I will forever regret this decision. Andy was right. It took us 30 to 35 minutes to reach there. The place, Crystal Lake, was an appropriate name as the lake water was reflecting the entire starry night sky like a mirror. We parked our car near the lake. It was a full moon night.
Plot twist. The lake is a mirror. It's probably not, though.
The moonlight was flooding all over the place. The Millard house was standing like a giant on the other side of the lake.
Okay. I can't help with that stuff dripping through the window and that's on the roof. It's either dirt or blood.
Didn't know that to reach the house, we have to cross the lake. Luckily, there were two small boats tied to the wooden platform of the lake. The ambiance around us was looking very spooky. Due to the fast open.
Or here's a thought, just walk around the lake. It's not that hard.
Area, we could hear each and every sound. The crickets chirping, the hollow wind passing by, and the churning water waves in the lake. James locked his car, and we got onto a boat. James and I started to paddle the boat while Andy fixed our flashlight. When we reached the opposite side of the lake, the house appeared way scarier than it did before. The broken windows were hanging as if they would fall at any moment. Weeds have grown all over the walls of the house. There was no sign of light coming from the house. We stepped on the house porch and pushed the main door. The main door opened with a loud creaking noise, signifying no human being.
Okay, yeah, you guys go in, and I'll just stay out here. That's what I would
Entered
say.
here in decades. Andy flashed the light inside, and almost a colony of bats flew overhead, scaring the shit out of us. I said in a tensed voice, "Guys, are you all sure about this?" Andy replied, "Come on now, stop being a kid." James and Andy got inside, and I had to follow them. The entire house was in darkness. The only source of light was a flashlight and the pale moonlight coming out of the broken window. We realized we are standing in the living room of the house and noticed a huge stairway lying in the middle of the room. James said in a low voice,
That's the stairs the father pushed the daughter down. Same where the father died.
"This is the stairway from where Mr. Millard fell down and died, breaking his neck." Cobwebs and dust were surrounding all over the house. I even saw a few bats hanging from the ceiling of the house. Andy flashed his light towards the left corner and said in a mocking voice, "Check this out, guys." We saw a painting hanging on the left corner wall. We went there and saw an oil painting featuring an old man with an angry-looking face standing near a fireplace.
I feel like that the daughter and the father's souls are in that house. I'm scared. Let's keep on watching. I don't want to press play. I'm getting the chills. Let's play.
And just beside him, a girl aged around 17 to 18 years sitting on a chair. "This must be Mr. Millard and his daughter," said James. The girl was actually good looking, but even in that picture, one could easily tell how extremely sad she was. It felt like tears will roll down her eyes any minute. Andy said in a sarcastic tone, "If I have her, I would have to keep her away too." I was getting really annoyed with his disgusting jokes. I said, "You should not say things like that. It's very disrespectful, man. Think about all the torture she has gone through." Andy shrugged his shoulders and replied, "Yeah, whatever." I started to walk towards the staircase.
Oof.
James said, "Where are you going?" He replied, "Let's see the daughter's room. We have come so far not to roam around the house for a while." Here. James started following him too. I turned around to go.
And that's where you're wrong. There's probably ghosts there.
With them too, but just then, I felt like I heard a giggling sound. I stopped and said,
See, I told you.
"Guys, did you hear that?" James said, "Hear what, Chris?" Before I could tell what I just experienced, I heard Andy say from upstairs, "Come on now, enough with your girly tantrums." I felt very insulted and decided not to speak a word to Andy. As I walked upstairs, I heard the wooden stair creaking with the pressure of my feet. After reaching upstairs, I saw James and Andy standing in front of a closed door. I asked, "What's wrong?" James replied while turning the doorknob, "I think the door is jammed. It's not opening." Andy told, "Hold the light. Let me try." Andy tried really hard but couldn't open the door. We were standing there in front of the closed door and thinking about what to do next just when we heard a giggling sound. Everyone got shocked by the sudden sound. I said in a panicked voice, "James, I've heard this sound downstairs. I think we should leave now. We had enough, guys." Andy flashed the light all over, but we couldn't see anyone. Then he said in a curious voice, "Maybe the sound is coming from this room." I don't know if you will believe me or not, but suddenly, the doorknob clicked on its own and the door opened. We immediately looked at the room. It was an old, dusty room.
That's
There was
the
a
girl's
small,
bedroom.
torn-out, dirty bed lying in the middle. The pale moonlight coming from the window made the room quite visible to our eyes. We were about to step into the room when we heard the giggling sound again. It was the sound of subdued laughter of a female voice. The hair at the back of my neck stood up. I said in a whispering voice, "Guys, let's go." Suddenly, James pointed out on the side of the bed facing the window and said in a scared voice, "What? What is that, Andy?" I felt as if a dog-like creature was sitting near the window, but it was too dark for us to see things clearly. Andy pointed the flashlight to that direction, and our blood turned cold. There was a girl on the ground near the window. She was standing like a frog. She was facing the ground.
That's
For
the
a
daughter.
moment, none of us could utter a single word. It was as if
No.
all of our hearts stopped the very moment, and we can't move anymore. The girl lifted her face, and the flashlight started to flicker. We couldn't see her face clearly due to the flickering, but then the light kept switching on and off for no reason. And with every flash of light, we could see the girl's vicious face with changing expression. With the first flash,
No. Heck no. No, 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 no. You boys stay there. I'm getting my butt out of that house.
we saw her sad face. With the second flash, we saw a huge ear-to-ear smile on her face. With the third flash, we saw her expressionless face with wide eyes as if she can see through us. We were so shocked that
What happened to the daughter? She looks like a spider. Well, she did get pushed down the stairs and she can't walk like
we almost forgot to run. Just then, the girl made the same spine-chilling giggle and started to crawl towards us vigorously like a hungry demon. We all finally got our senses back and started to run for our lives.
Heck
James and
no.
I were in front, and Andy was running behind us. James kept saying, "Run, run!" Andy was screaming like a 10-year-old saying, "Don't leave me here! Please! She is behind me!" We reached the main door and turned around for Andy. We saw Andy was almost halfway on the stairs, and the girl was crawling behind him, following him like an animal. Somehow, we all managed to get out of the house and jumped on the boat. Andy dropped the flashlight on the lake in a fit of fear. James and I started paddling like maniacs. Andy was sitting on the boat, facing his back at the house. He got so freaked out that he kept saying, "I can still hear her evil laughter. Paddle faster, faster." James and I realized that he has gone into shock, because as far as our eyes went, there was no one in front of the house. James said in a low, panting voice, "Maybe she can't leave the house." I didn't say anything, just kept paddling. I still don't know how we managed to return home that night, but ever since this incident, news about any haunted place makes me sweat.
This is literally the start of the second story. We only have time for two more. We only have time for this story. Okay, well, we would need to finish this in the next video, but let's watch a little bit and then I'll end the video.
This happened 19 years ago, and it sure as hell was the most frightening and tragic event that has and will certainly continue to mark me till the rest of my days. I just want to preface this by also telling you that if you're easily disturbed, this story isn't for you. But anyway, on with the story. It was the evening of January the 13th, 2001, and I was at a ski colony with two of my good childhood friends, Josh and Mark. In the colony, we were roughly about 40 kids, ranging anywhere from 8 to 16 years old, and we stayed in a giant hotel for about 2 weeks. Josh, Mark, and I were all 14 years old, and
Okay, guys, well, we'll have to end this video right here. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, smash the like button, and we'll see you all next time. Goodbye. Goodbye.